piece of paper, a digit on a screen, a symbol of value, power, freedom. Money is one of humanity's most impressive inventions. It is also one of its most illusory and counterintuitive. Whether we care about money or not, whether we want to care about money or not, we are all affected by it. On both the collective and individual scale, nearly all of humanity is propelled by money's intangible current. What is money? Plainly, money is defined by three primary functions: a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. As a medium of exchange, money can be exchanged for goods and services. As a store value, it holds its value over time, so it can be exchanged for goods and services in the future. And as a unit of account, it provides a common measure of value to compare and discern reasonable, consistent pricing across goods and services. Before money, there was bartering, the direct trade of goods and services for other goods and services. This had many problems. Mainly, bartering was highly susceptible to a frequent asymmetry in trade needs. What is known as the double coincidence of wants is the condition in which two parties in the same place both have items or services that the other party wants at the same time. The fundamental problem with this is that this condition rarely occurred. For example, if one party was looking to trade cattle and another party was looking to trade baskets, the party looking to trade cattle would also need to want baskets, and the party with baskets would need to want cattle for a trade to occur between the two. Since this sort of perfect alignment would rarely be the case, other intermediate trades would often become necessary. For example, let's say the party with surplus cattle actually wanted fabric. In order to get fabric, they might have needed to trade cattle for baskets, and then baskets for fabric with someone else who wanted baskets. Naturally, this would result in crude exchanges, inefficiencies, and imbalances across a socioeconomic landscape. Money, of course, solves this problem. At bottom, money retains its function and value because we all agree that it's valuable and we all participate in its functions. Philosophy of money. The philososophy of money. The way each of us handles money provides interesting and important insights into who we are. More importantly, money can be used to discover and optimize these insights. The way an individual treats money is affected by their values. If everything is in alignment, how one handles money should illuminate and enhance one's values. Of course, this is not always the case. And if it isn't for us, arguably the goal is to work toward creating this alignment, finding the equilibrium of one's wants, better understanding oneself, controlling one's impulses, and actualizing one's unique image of life. Beyond money's primary functions, its secondary functions can include, and should include when possible, a means of clarity, focus, discipline, and control. This, of course, comes with many challenges. Firstly, we are all born into different circumstances. We are each born in certain places in the world with certain genetics, to certain parents with certain values and resources, in certain times in history. Collectively, these circumstances unfold into who we are. They both limit and allow us to do things, and they ultimately form our worldviews. This includes our relationship with, access to, understanding of, and behavior around money. Therefore, this puts everyone in different positions, both in terms of financial resources and goals, based entirely on chance. This is important to note. No matter who you are, though, you can't have everything. Money is interesting and potentially problematic in this respect, because like everything, it is finite, but it seems as though you can always have more of it. Because of this phenomenon, it can become easy to live in a way, spurred by money, that is directly at odds with the nature of our existence, a brief, fleeting existence that will end and does not allow us to bring anything with us when it does. If we are really lucky, while we are here, we can maybe have a couple big things. Things like contentment, material abundance, strong family relationships, enduring friendships, status, worldly travel, impressive career achievements, fame, and legacy. The lucky ones among us can maybe have a couple of these things, maybe a few. But in order for any of us to have any chance at having anything we want, we need to choose and prioritize. It is often said that time is money, but if that's true, then money is also time. How we strive to pursue and spend money, then, is, or at least should be, closely correlated, if not identical, to how we strive to handle and spend our time. Choices around money, therefore, around acquiring, saving, investing, and spending money, are philosophical choices. By evaluating and determining what we want with and from money, we determine in part what we want with and from life. Happiness, money and happiness. Arguably, most of us are after some form of happiness in life. Happiness is such a malleable, watered-down term at this point. It's hard to say exactly what it means universally, but here we can use it as an umbrella term to refer to reasonably frequent positive emotions in life and/or a positive sense and satisfaction about one's life. Even if we don't believe in happiness as an ideal or enduring state, it is undeniable that it is possible to have higher qualities of life, well-being, and a sense of satisfaction. And so, for the sake of simplicity, we'll consider any of these things under the same term, happiness. Because this is such a fundamental desire for most people, it makes sense that for most of us, the pursuit of money is interlinked on some level with the pursuit of happiness. How to use money? How do we use money? Assuming the more common objective in life being positive experience, there are fairly consistent ideas found across both contemporary research and philosophical literature that we can look to in order to help us better make determinations about how we ought to strive toward, use, and consider money. Firstly, we need money. In certain spheres, it can be common to think that money is negative or corruptive or antithetical to happiness. Although this may be true in certain conditions, and there are some elements of truth to it in general, largely having money is important and does contribute to happiness. It has been widely believed that around $75,000 a year is the threshold at which happiness, specifically day-to-day happiness, is improved by money, and then its effects mostly level off and happiness plateaus. This was found in research conducted in 2010 by Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton. This study, however, is relatively old, often misunderstood, and now believed to be partially untrue. The truth, rather, appears to be a fair bit more complicated. A more recent study conducted in 2021 by senior fellow Matthew Killingsworth at the University of Pennsylvania found that happiness, in fact, continues to consistently rise with income past $75,000 a year. After then teaming up with Kahneman, along with the professor of psychology Barbara Mellers, together, they resolved this discrepancy in research and discovered that the annual income level threshold relevant to happiness is around $100,000 as of 2023. After this point, however, happiness continues to increase with more money for most people. It's just that for generally unhappy people, this is not the case, and happiness stops improving for them around the $100,000 a year figure. Regardless of the amount of money or which camp someone is in, generally happy or generally unhappy, it is not solely having money that improves one's happiness. It is how one views, pursues, and uses money. And this part can be fairly counterintuitive. Traveling back to 300 BCE, the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus provided many useful foundational insights on this topic, happiness and money. Epicurus was a hedonist, so he believed that one's own pleasure is the only thing that is intrinsically valuable. What is pleasurable for Epicurus is what is morally good. This is not a straightforward dichotomy, however, and Epicurus understood the spectrum and variability of pleasures when he wrote, "Pleasure is our first and kindred good. It is the starting point of every choice and of every aversion, and to it we come back, inasmuch as we make feeling the rule by which to judge of every good thing. And since pleasure is our first and native good, for that reason we do not choose every pleasure whatsoever, but ofttimes pass over many pleasures when a greater annoyance ensues from them. And ofttimes we consider pains superior to pleasures, when submission to the pains for a long time brings us as a consequence a greater pleasure. While therefore all pleasure, because it is naturally akin to us, is good, not all pleasure is choice-worthy, just as all pain is an evil, and yet not all pain is to be shunned. When it comes to achieving pleasure through our desires, Epicurus defined three categories of desire: natural and necessary desires, natural but non-necessary desires, and vain and empty desires. Necessary desires are things like food, water, and shelter. Non-necessary desires include things like luxurious foods and luxurious housing. We need food and shelter, but we do not need them to be in luxurious form. Lastly, vain desires are things like material abundance, power, fame, and so on. For Epicurus, necessary desires are relatively easy to satisfy because they are generally accessible, and they are limited in how much is required in order to satisfy them. For example, one can only eat so much food in a moment, day, and lifetime. Moreover, these desires provide the greatest degree of pleasure because they are fundamental to our basic nature and create the greatest distance between us and pain. Non-necessary desires, rather, are more difficult to obtain while providing a smaller margin of improvement in satisfaction and comfort. They are, in Epicurus's mind, still worthy of enjoying whenever possible, but they are not to be depended on. Lastly, vain desires are difficult, if not impossible, to satisfy because they have no limit of satisfaction. One can continually strive toward and acquire nearly infinite degrees of material abundance, power, fame, wealth, and so on. Fundamentally, Epicurus argued that the best form pleasure, or happiness, which he referred to as static pleasure, is achieved when there is a lack of pain, and pain exists and persists out of unmet desire. And so, since vain desires can never be satisfied, they create pain. Epicurus wrote, "He who has a clear and certain understanding of these things will direct every preference and aversion toward securing health of body and tranquility of mind, seeing that this is the sum and end of a blessed life. For the end of all our actions is to be free from pain and fear, and, when once we have attained all this, the tempest of the soul is laid, seeing that the living creature has no need to go in search of something that is lacking, nor to look for anything else by which the good of the soul and of the body will be fulfilled. When we are pained because of the absence of pleasure, then, and then only, do we feel the need of pleasure." Traveling back to the present, Epicurus's wisdom holds up relatively well against the test of time. The concept in modern psychology known as the hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation is consistent in part with some of Epicurus's ideas. The hedonic treadmill suggests that after some time has passed, following significant life events, positive or negative, one's experience of day-to-day happiness tends to revert to a baseline consistent with what was experienced before the event. This means that no matter how much one obtains in realms like material possessions, one will never obtain an overall improved day-to-day experience of happiness after reaching their relative baseline. And so, if it is not material abundance, not fame, not status, not even luxury beyond basic necessities, what is it that money is good for? Firstly, money can be good for all of these things. The chief value of money, arguably, is to be able to do and concentrate on what you want and what you want to do. And so if what you value is luxurious food, social status, material abundance, and so on, then that is what money is good for you. And for some, it might be merely the process of acquiring money itself that provides value. Some people want to endlessly play the game, trying to get as high as they can for no reason other than that's what they want. And that's fine. But the outcome and prize in these cases are likely not happiness or satisfaction. A study published by the British Journal of Social Psychology in 2022 examined the impact that money has on happiness and delineated the impact between intrinsic and extrinsic goals. Extrinsic goals are typically the desire for things that other people or society expect. Intrinsic goals are things one personally feels a motivation toward. Researchers in the study found that when money was used to fulfill intrinsic goals, participants reported that it improved their well-being, whereas when it was used for extrinsic goals, money had far less impact. Intrinsic value. What is intrinsically valuable? Studies show that intrinsically valuable things most commonly include novel experiences, strong relationships, personal growth and development, and providing for others. The professor of psychology at Cornell University, Thomas Gilovich, said, "People often think spending money on an experience is not as wise an investment as spending it on a material possession. They think the experience will come and go in a flash, and they'll be left with little compared to owning an item. But in reality, we remember experiences long afterward, while we soon become used to our possessions. At the same time, we also enjoy the anticipation of having an experience more than the anticipation of owning a possession. More broadly, the fundamental objects that allow us to engage in our intrinsic values, which money can afford us, are time and freedom." Author Morgan Housel wrote, "Use money to gain control over your time, because not having control of your time is such a powerful and universal drag on happiness. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want to, pays the highest dividend that exists in finance. Money used to better control one's time and gain greater freedom can improve one's overall happiness because it can reduce the negative side of one's life's equation. The frequency and depth to which one dips beneath their baseline experience of happiness by reducing things like worry, discomfort, and being forced to do things that one does not want to. And since more time and freedom can be directed toward one's intrinsic values, it can also provide a better outlook on and satisfaction with one's life. Money is thus less about what one can gain materially and more about what one can preserve personally, one's time, interests, relationships, and peace of mind. In the end, we can't take anything with us: our money, our stuff, our achievements, our time. Our existence is confined within the temporal boundaries of the fleeting physical assemblage of our atoms, destined to disassemble and drop us back into nothingness. And so, on the individual scale, what purpose does money have? Does anything have? If not to strive toward achieving some personal definition of happiness, of meaning, of well-being, while we are still here. Of course, this is all much easier said than done. One's relationship with money is distorted by countless factors. How does one measure the present against the future when considering one's philosophy? How does one know what they value? How does one know how much of their worldview is truly their own versus how much is influenced by societal expectations that have now become so intertwined, it's impossible to tell them apart? And how does one acquire enough money to maximize one's happiness while not falling victim to the endless pursuit of money, which opposes happiness? So it goes with all aspects of the human project, inbuilt with terrible paradoxes and catch-22s. But to be lucky enough to even consider what to try to do with money is itself a blessing that must be appreciated. As with anything, all we can do is try our best, and we must, because otherwise, if we are not careful and thoughtful about how we spend our time and thus handle and pursue money, we risk being another tragic story told from another deathbed. Subscribe to our channel for more exciting updates, and thank you for watching.